I'm David Groninger in Seattle, Washington, and today is Wednesday, January 6, 2016. Well, that's the first page of one of my favorite pieces by Rachmaninoff. I play that because it energizes me, and it gives me a good place to start when I give a message. Well, each day I ask myself the question, what can I say in a 5-minute message that might just help 5 million people? I write down the answers, I get ideas, and I give a short message. Well, the message today is simply this. It has to do with good news versus bad news. And the idea is this. There are some people who don't want to hear any bad news about any subject, and so they don't watch any news. Then there are other people who listen to good news and listen to bad news, and there are some people who only listen to bad news. Well, here's the idea. The idea that I'm giving today is this: promote good news. Promote good news. Talk about good news. There's always bad news and there's always good news. I believe that the idea is not to neglect or ignore or to be in denial of bad news, but to look at the overall proportion. For example, if there's one plane crash this month, but when you think about how many people survive riding on planes, hundreds of millions of people are surviving riding on planes, and things like this. Look at the positive side of all of the news. Look at the balance of news. The thing about good news versus bad news is this. If you look at bad news that relates to some activity that you're in, if you look at bad news connected with relationships or marriages, like you look at statistics about failing relationships or difficulty in marriages or whatever, and yet you are in a marriage or relationship, or you have a goal to build a better relationship or marriage or whatever, the more bad news you listen to, the more this could affect your attitude or your hope or your constructive ambitions in creating what you'd like to create. So the idea is to realize that every single day there are people who are living the results or experiencing the consequences of a lot of things they have done that finally culminate in an unhappy event. But on the other hand, there are many people each day who are living an event that's a culmination of a lot of good things that have happened, and the result is something that is good also. Whatever kind of work you do, whatever business you're in, whatever kinds of ambitions and dreams and aspirations you have, if you let negative news in general get too much onto you, then it might discourage you from your ambitions. Here's the thing. I sometimes look at news as food for the mind. Now, when I look at food for the body, it's like this. There could be, 10,000 people in your city who smoke cigarettes. Or in a place like the Pacific Northwest, that has an overall population of maybe 3 million people in the general area, and if 20% of people smoke cigarettes, then 20% of 3 million, well, that's a lot of people. It's like 500,000 people or so, something like that. So if there are 500,000 people that smoke cigarettes, I can exist in the same Pacific Northwest community, and I don't have to smoke one cigarette. In other words, if 500,000 people have a particular way of life, they're risking their health. Just because 500,000 people do that, I don't have to do that. I can choose a whole different substance to put into my lungs, like how about fresh air? How about taking a bicycle ride along the Burt Gilman Trail, which is a trail along Lake Washington here in Seattle that has a lot of fresh air coming off of the lake? How about riding a bicycle in a neighborhood that has a lot of trees and not very much air pollution? These are healthy things that I can put into my lungs. So it's kind of like the news. Just because 500,000 people are reading a particular, news ideas that have to do with, that might discourage people from expanding and growing in their career, in business, in doing something special with their lives. Trying to be proficient in music, for example. Well, what do you know? That means I have to end off soon. Well, this talk is about promoting good news. And I'm comparing news as food for the mind, comparing it with like the food for the body. Just because 500,000 people smoke cigarettes in this area, you don't have to smoke one cigarette ever. And yet, you're not in denial of the fact that 500,000 people are smoking, nor are you in denial of anything if you choose not to smoke. You're just ingesting something that feeds your lung, that makes your lungs and your whole body function better, called fresh air. Same thing with food. If 500,000 people eat at fast food restaurants every day, you don't have to do that. You can bring your own lunch to work, and it can be very healthy kinds of foods. Or you can eat at a very healthy kind of restaurant like the Veggie Grill, which is a vegan vegetarian type of a restaurant. So in the news area, it's like this. Just because there's a whole bunch of information on a particular, on all kinds of subjects every day about disasters, car wrecks, terrorist bombings, the stock market going down, fears about the economy not growing, or that the United States is losing market share and that other countries are getting ahead, or anything like this. This is just like the smoking kind of a thing. Just like you don't have to smoke, and 500,000 people want to smoke. Well, 500,000 people who want to read those articles, you don't have to read any of them. You can be aware they exist, just like you're aware that 500,000 people in this area smoke, but you don't have to delve into those articles too much. Have the vast majority, in fact, be a little bit excessive on good news. In fact, whatever you want to accomplish in life, read a whole bunch of good news about it. Be aware, of course, obviously, that there can be the negative consequences too. Well, learn about what you have to do to take care of the mistakes or what might go wrong, so that you can manage your success, so you can be who you want to be and have what you want to be having in life and experience what you'd like to experience. You're not in denial of all the bad things happening in the world just because you choose to live your, like 99.9% of your existence in totally awesome, fun, and positive good news. Just for the fun of it, anything in life you want to get better at, write an article about it just for yourself that you can read every day, and write the article as though it's already happened. If you'd like to get, a higher paying job, if you want to have a more happier relationship, or you want to build, whatever it is you want to do, write an article that has a headline, Joe gets married to wonderful woman. Joe just celebrates, 10th year anniversary with the love of his life. He's had 10 wonderful years. Or Joe Smith gets the job of his dreams, and he says it was easier than he thought. Make up, invent, create, use your imagination to invent your own news articles. Just like an affirmation is when you affirm something you'd like to have happen. Make up your own newspaper headlines, post it on the wall, just like somebody might put an article, they would clip an article on the wall to put it there because it might be interesting. Make up your own articles about what you'd like to have happen in your life, and put them you can even put them on the internet and send them to people. Put them on your wall so you can read them every single day. That's how to use news. Do not let the sea or ocean of news, just because people are doing things that they're doing, it doesn't mean that you have to be involved in that. Create your own news and live your own news. You don't have to be affected by all the news about things that you don't want to participate in. Yes, be aware that these things happen, but spend a very, very small percentage of your time involved in it. So that's the talk of the day. It's just called this: promote good news. Promote good news to yourself. Promote good news to other people. Be a person who's who people remember you because you're always telling them good news. You're always going to offend people because they feel like they should say some bad news, and let them say it. Your idea is not to fight against people who want to express their freedom of thought and freedom of speech. The idea is this: to recognize that we're in a whole sea of information, just like we live in a whole sea. We're like fish in a sea, a big sea of information, and like in a big sea of products that we can eat. The cigarettes, for example, we can smoke, or junk food that we can eat. But we can choose to have positive news about the things we want to succeed in, and we can choose to breathe fresh air and not cigarette smoke, and we can choose to eat very, very healthy, very nutritious, and longevity-producing kinds of foods, and not fast foods. We can make all these choices, even if we're in a sea of where more than half the people are doing the other thing. Well, that's the talk today. It's just called promote good news. Find good news, invent good news about yourself, promote good news. This is David Groninger in Seattle, Washington, saying thank you for listening to this message.